I recall the first time I met Mike, but I had heard him play many times before I was actually introduced to him. But where we met was at the Kensington Community Church, and Mike was friends and musical colleagues with the wonderful drummer John Guerin, who was also a San Diegan. And I had become friends with John and was kind of just going around to wherever John would play or hang out. And he, this evening, introduced me to Mike. And of course, I was familiar with him because he had played and had such a reputation among the young musicians in San Diego, and I'm sure older musicians at the same time. And that was probably, I'm guessing, in 1957. As I look back now, part of that identity was the developing of the history of the jazz pianists from Art Tatum on to the other pianists of the later era, but he seemed to have a wonderful foundation both in music and in general music terms. He studied the piano, I believe, with a teacher he's always spoke highly of, Bill Franks. Mike's mother was a singer in San Diego, among other things that she did, and she got I'm sure when Mike expressed an interest in the piano, that she got Mike to Bill Franks would be my guess. But I know Mike speaks very highly of the studies that he had with Bill Franks, and then he had a great musical sense and a great curiosity about music, and was certainly the most developed pianist that I had ever had a chance to hear locally in his teens. Well, let's see, that time, I'm trying to think, if I say 1957, I think Mike was born in 1938, so he would have been not even 20 at that point. But he could sound like Horace Silver, I remember. That was the thing. I'd listened to an early Art Blakey, Horace Silver record, and I thought, oh my gosh, here's somebody that he can sound like Horace if he wants to. But he had that ability to distill the musical aspects of a given pianist, and through doing that, he made those parts of that piano style, if you will, his own, and that went into the mix of his developing his own voice on the piano. As I had the pleasure of getting to know Mike better, he'd come over to my house and we'd listen to records, and we'd listen to Red Garland records. And I remember I got a Bill Evans record, one of the early ones. When record stores were still available, we could go listen to a little bit of something and then buy it and then bring it home and share it with our friends. So I have a vivid recollection of listening, probably Mike had previous to that, of listening to the Bill Evans record. Just came to mind, another great record I remember buying and then telling Mike, you ought to listen. Not that he didn't know about it, but I said, I love this Monk at Town Hall album. Of course, Mike had a great love of Monk early on. And so those kinds of experiences I remember with Mike having a wonderful capacity to learn so quickly the real essential ingredients of various major jazz musicians, whether it be Miles Davis or Monk or whomever it might be. He had a great capacity to taking information and make it his own. Yeah. Bud Powell, of course, was another way. We used to play Un Poco Loco, which was a famous Bud Powell piece, and Mike had that under his belt real early. His ability to be so appropriate for any situation, the breadth of his musical abilities and his sensibilities make him one of the absolutely superb accompanists in any situation, and the ability to make to bring this almost an ability to hold the music there as he participates in the musical moment. He has a vast a set of ingredients he can bring to any musical situation. And all this sounds so clinical. It's that he, more than any person I've ever played with, can bring a quality, such a high level of musicality to the situation. You just brought up SHELLY, MANNE, who was an idol of mine and a great inspiration. And he once told me, he and I were talking about Mike, and he was talking about how many people love Mike. And he said, I played with so many great pianists. And he said, I always wanted to play with McCoy Tyner. And he said, I finally did last year. Well, this was, SHELLY passed away about in the early 80s. So this would have been, in the late 70s or something. And he said, but you know what? He said, as much as I love all those pianists, he said, my favorite pianist in life has been Mike. And I said, I can understand that. I said, because I feel the same way. Not that I've played with the pianists that SHELLY had, but certainly as a listener, that's where my vote goes. He has a selfless quality in his playing that you can almost watch Mike and see that he's constantly has what we call his radar going to see what other people are doing and what he can bring to enhance that, whether it be in an ensemble situation or accompanying, say, a singer. The aspect of, it wouldn't matter what instrument Mike played. That's his, as I understand it, that's his way of giving to the music. He's there to give in the most selfless way to the music, and the piano is just a vehicle for his giving as a musician. I think all great musicians, the instrument is a very secondary aspect to their musical personality. But Mike has the ingredients in his musical soul that he can give to a situation, and he has that global sense of the musical moment, and he has the capacity conceptually to make the piano an orchestral instrument, a polyphonic instrument in the right hands. Such as Mike can be almost an orchestral instrument, and he can manifest that to whatever musical situation he's in. And you couple that with his such a broad perspective on music, so many interests that he has pursued over the years, whether it be in jazz and the great jazz pianists that we talked about, Tatum and Monk and Bud Powell, and certainly many others. And then his interest in classical music, his interest in all kinds of music, whether it be, as you mentioned a little earlier, bringing up the Albert Ayler subject with him at one point. You just never know what Mike might bring to a musical situation, because he has so many interests, and they're all very, very well founded in his understanding of things. And certainly Bill Evans had a beautiful touch as well, and Art Tatum did. I mean, in a way, it would be strange to say Monk had a beautiful touch, but in his own way, it was him. It was Monk, and if his music touches you, I think part of it is the beauty of the visceral quality that Monk had, and Mike can certainly affect that in his playing as well. He can be rhythmically so exciting and get that touch that just, for the moment, has a burn to it, and it's both a physical input and where he is rhythmically in the moment, and it's also a touch that has a uniqueness about it. If you're at all familiar with his playing, there's something about Mike's touch that is, to my sense, unmistakable. It's the combination of what he is as a person, and his aesthetic, his sense of the beauty in the world, I think, his curiosity about lots of different things, whether they be in the field of music or art or language, politics. All of those things contribute. And also, I don't think Mike has ever been one to necessarily look back. He's always looking forward. I remember one time he said, the last few years, he said he had just gotten the complete Bartok quartets that he said I don't remember if he said he had not listened to them that carefully over the years, but it was something that had caught his attention, at least at that point. And I thought, yeah, that's Mike. It's a sense, I think, of all great musicians who are always trying to, well, it's the old story. The more you find out, the more you find out, the less you know.